Deborah from the attic, but that's a bit of a lie. I'm not in the attic. I've found a little space in a back bedroom in our little tiny cottage in the UK. I've got a whole table to myself, so that's my new setup for the winter time while I'm visiting friends and family in the UK, and not in my French studio. So if you're new here, you're very welcome. If you're a returning friend, welcome back. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Please check out the playlists. There's lots of information there. They're divided up into making cards, making bullet journals, using journals. There's a whole load of great information in there. I think there's over 400 videos or something now, so please go and have a little look at that. In today's video, we're going to be looking at one of the subscription boxes from Your Creative Studio. Now this one is entitled Flowers. It dates from June 2022. I will provide all of the links to Your Creative Studio and where you can look for this box and where you can understand about the subscriptions in the little information box below the video, so do go and have a look at that. All the information is there, and if you've got any queries, just email Your Creative Studio. And although this box dates from June, I got this maybe a week ago, it doesn't actually matter. The dates, don't get hung up on the dates of things or thinking that they're very, very seasonal, because although each box is themed, because these are vintage style subscription boxes, you can use them for any season and they will all work together really, really nicely. So if you had 2 or 3 of these boxes, you'd be able to mix and match between the sets. Everything has this beautifully curated vintage style, and it does make all of your journaling so much easier. So what I'm going to do today is we're going to dive into the contents of the box. I will show you that, and then I'm going to work on layouts in my book. Now, some people have asked me some questions about this journal. This is a very cheap 8x8 sized book. It's a nice one. It's got a nice thick cover. It's got plenty of lovely blank pages all ready for doing more work. But what I like about this is the cost. It's not very expensive. I bought it from a shop called Action, which we have in France, but I guess any budget equivalent is a great place to go. The pages don't need to be particularly thick. These ones are, which is just a nice bonus, but they don't need to be, because what you're doing, or what I'm doing in these pages, is I'm giving myself layout ideas, and I use this as a resource for if I'm making any cards or if I'm doing a page in my own personal journal. I might come back and have a look at this and just see, how have I used text, how have I used some of the washi tape, how have I used some of the smaller images, how have I balanced the colours. And this is a really good, useful way of giving yourself a resource of things and layouts that appeal to you. And we will be starting on a blank page, and I'll do probably 5 pages and I'll show you those at the end. So once we've been through the box here, keep watching. What always amazes me about these subscription boxes is just how much you get in it, and I hope that run through of the contents really demonstrates that. I thought it'd be fun for my pages to actually talk to you about my thought process on these. So I want to use this envelope. I have to sacrifice the envelope as containing the contents, but it's so pretty, I would really like to use it. So I'm going to have that placed centrally. I'm going to use the large stamp to add some texture and interest by stamping it a couple of times behind the envelope. And then I was looking at one of the other images I could use to put centrally, and there are a couple of options. I really wanted to use this one. I thought this was really jolly, but the reason I'm not going with this is because where I wanted to position this, you would still be able to see a little bit of the bar from the packaging that comes across the envelope. And although I don't mind seeing this bit here, I don't really want it popping out. So this piece I can't use. Then I looked at a larger piece that would cover the bit popping out, and it would just capture this little bar across the side. And I quite liked this arrangement, except that there wasn't a very good colour match here. And also I didn't feel that these leaves really complemented the tiny little leaves from here, because if I'm going to use this part of the packaging bar, I want it to be more cohesive. And so in the end, I'm going to use this piece. This has got a great connection with the little bar. The colours are very similar. The flowers and the size of the flowers is quite similar. And I think this piece complements this bar, and it means that this packaging bar, instead of being a bit of an eyesore, I can actually use it and incorporate it into my design. So that's my thought process behind this, and now I'm going to put it all together. I always try to use just the contents of the kit. Sometimes I have to add a couple of extra pieces. On this page I'm going to be using StazOn black ink to ink up my stamp and stamp it behind the envelope, and I'm going to also be using a tape runner to glue the envelope. For my second page, I'm going to use the envelope that contained the washi tape. I've taken away the label that was on top. I'm going to open it out, and I'm going to cover it using the really thin sort of rice paper, and I'm going to create a background for it using these sheets of paper. Because they're both exactly the same design, that's really helpful. It means that I can give myself a background, and then I will position my covered envelope on the top of that. And after that, I'll see if it needs any more little elements adding to it. third page, I want to go a bit vintagey, but I also wanted to show you a way that you could use this really nice sheet with these little designs on it. There's a very strong blue, so I also want to balance up the blue by using one of these little stickers, a little stamp edged sticker, and that way I create a connection and a colour balance with the blue. And I'm going to use some of these vintage pages. So the way I think I'm going to do this is I'm going to have this piece at the back, one of these parchment pieces at the bottom. I'm probably going to have my little Christmas piece here, and that's just because of the time of year it is. I'm doing this in November. And then my piece with the lovely images on it will, I'm trying to make sure that you can see this without it all being too reflective, but that will sit on the top, and then the blue element will be in the bottom. The other thing I wanted to say about when you're designing your pages is they don't have to be square or rectangular. You can literally think outside of the box. So although this piece, this perspex piece, is rectangular, I'm going to let things spill out from the back of it, and that way you get a bit more interest into your page because these edges are so variable. One other thing to say about using clear perspex when glue might be seen behind it, that's what is pushing my decision to have this little blue stamp on the top of this doily effect. I mean, that gives me a really nice visual, but it also means that because this is sticky, it will hold down this corner of the page, and when I'm going to stick down the top of the page, I'm going to add my glue behind the really dark stamp because I don't think it will show up there. I'm going to keep this page covered up so you don't get blinded by the reflections, and this next page is going to be a combination of a little bit of vintage and a little bit of floweriness. I'm going to start with these two sheets. These are just plain paper sheets with these lovely adverts printed onto them. Then I found in the little pack of parchment stickers, I found this one. It ties in quite nicely because it's got this vintage style, because there's some oldie worldy writing on there, and it also has a little fern, so that's going to sit down here. And then I've chosen one of the rather nice cardboard pieces of vintage writing and flowers. So that's how I'm going to tie all of this together. So I've got my fern down here that complements the green of this piece of card. Then I've got the vintage writing on both of these that complements the older adverts. And what I'm going to do, I found two of these. These are similar to, I'm calling them cardboard, they're just really thick paper. And I found two of these, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out the butterflies and I'm going to use them on my image as well, because that will tie together the colour theme, which is sort of yellow, green and vintage. Although we know the book will close on this page and everything will lie flat, there's no reason why we can't celebrate the 3D of the butterflies in the meantime. For my final page, I want to give you an idea of a way that you could use the rather lovely parchment paper. So I want to use something underneath it, and then I'm going to play around with these little stickers. I like the ones with the gold on them. They look really lovely. So I want to use those and the little tickets, and then some of these peach coloured flower images as well, and another little parchment sticker. So I'm going to be working in this corner because I also want to show you that you don't have to fill a page. It can be quite effective just to work on a little corner, just make a little corner decoration. That completes our final page, a little bit more abstract, just focused in the corner and relying heavily on the use of the rather nice stickers that are included in this month's subscription kit. I hope that's given you some ideas for ways that you can use not just the June kit that we've been looking at, but the other kits as well, and hopefully you can see what I mean about all of the elements working together really nicely, and that's true for each month's kits, I think. So do go and check out your creative studio. Do have a look at some of the other videos on my channel. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and if you think you're subscribed, if you wouldn't mind just checking that you are, because some people have been saying they found that they have been unsubscribed. So for now I'm going to say thank you very much for your time as always, and until we meet again, stay safe and take care.